So yeah, let's just break it down for those who might be new to astrology. Um, like what's your sun sign? What's your ascendant? What are you looking at on the chart? What are these conjunctions and
Well, without getting too, we're not even going to go there yet. We'll just talk about the planets because
I know a little bit more than
starting.
I thought.
Yeah, no. You know a lot. We've done a lot of readings and stuff, so you're very well educated. But the average person, like I said, they mostly they don't even know it's their sun sign. It's just their star sign, which is their zodiac sign, which is just the one sign. Mm-hmm. Like I said, we all have 12 signs in our natal chart, and we have 12 houses. Each of the houses indicates a specific area of your life, and having different planets in each of those houses indicates various kind of combinations of energy and how that impacts you. So to start is like I said in the beginning, the big three, which is the sun, the moon, and the rising or the ascendant. So your sun sign is the sun takes about 30 days to transit through each sign. So thus you share the same season with quite a bit of people. And your sun represents vitality, it represents your personality, it represents your ego, represents who you are on the more personality level. So kind of day-to-day interactions when you allow the ego to come out. Your moon sign moon comes out at night. Moon sign represents the unconscious. It represents your emotions. It represents your emotional body, so how you interact with emotions, how you process emotions. Also represents your childhood. It represents conditioning from a baby. And it also represents in general, your conditioning. So the way that I kind of like to describe the three is your moon sign represents home, where you come from. And your sun sign is the vehicle, which is taking you to your desired destination. Your desired destination is what we call the rising sign or the ascendant in astrology. So that's, in a sense, you could say what we're here to learn in this lifetime, or what we're growing into, what we're rising up into, or what we're ascending up into. And so you can kind of put it all together, and you are, in a sense, moving away from a lot of the tendencies of the moon. Those are habits, our unconscious habits, our emotions, our conditioned habits. We're moving away from that. But just because you're leaving home doesn't mean that you completely remove all attachments from home. You still have many amazing values that you learn from your parents that are never going to go away. Mm-hmm. But you don't need to take everything that's in your home with you, when you go on an adventure, or when you move to a new place. You don't take your entire contents of your home and move into the next, or your parents' home at least. And your sun sign, like I said, it's a vehicle. So it's what's taking you from A to B. So the sun is always there. It's your personality. The sun, it really represents that which is always generating. It's always staying the same. The moon waxes and wanes, right? We have new moons, which goes dark. We have full moons where it's bright. So there's constant cycles. The tides go in, the tides go out. The emotional and the conditioning is always changing, right? We have our core conditioning that we accumulate as a kid, and then that as we grow, as we become more conscious, we change the relationship with that conditioning. Right, we have different relationships with that. We let go of some of that, hopefully. Not everybody, but oftentimes we let go of a lot of that. We grow, we adapt, we become more conscious, and we realize that most of that doesn't serve us anymore. There's some core things that do serve us, our core tendencies. It's like, okay, if you grew up around a very family-oriented household, you're probably gonna, no matter what happens in the future, you're probably gonna be a very family-oriented person. If you grew up in a household that was perhaps very cold and not very touchy-feely, not very overly emotional, and your parents didn't really express emotions, well, you're probably going to carry that into your adult life as well. The sun, though, it represents that which is kind of unchanging. The sun itself doesn't go dim, it just disappears, right? It disappears on the axis. It's always sunny somewhere in the world, right? at some time, except temporarily on eclipses. That's another story. But so the sun represents that vitality, which is constantly happening, meaning your personality, your ego is always there. It's always going to be there. It's never going away. There's no such thing as getting rid of the ego, right? It's just managing it and not letting it always this.
Ego's
It doesn't
bad.
always have to take the center stage. Just so evil. The ego, saying the ego is evil is the ego. That's the funny part. That damn ego, it's always in the way. It's like, who's talking? Hey, ego. What's up, bro? Right. So.
Oh, I like that.
So yeah, that's kind of the way that I describe it when I'm doing consultations and stuff with people who have never really thought about that, or newbies. And then we go to our destination, which is our rising sign. So our rising sign changes every 2 hours. That's why the time of birth that you were born matters. And that's also, not only does the rising sign change, sometimes when you're born on a cusp, there's no such thing as cusps in astrology. The cusp is the day, which doesn't really matter, because in astrology it's all mathematics, it's degrees. Right. So I could be born in the evening on a cusp, and someone could be born in the morning, and we would have different sun signs. And we may have different moon signs, and most likely we'll have different rising signs, all in the same day. And if any other planets happen to change that day, we'll also have very different charts, despite being born on the same day, in the same year. So that's where astrology gets really specific. Right? And you can have someone that may think they're an Aries and they're reading horoscopes for an Aries, but they're actually a Taurus, just because they're born on that cusp and they're not quite sure which is which. And they may go their whole life kind of reading both of them and not really resonate with either of them because they're unaware of all the other elements of that. So yeah, that's the kind of the picture that I like to describe is we're leaving our home, we're leaving our moon sign, we're leaving a lot of the tendencies of that. The unconscious stuff, the negative stuff, the stuff that's no longer serving us, and we're utilizing our personality, our ego, our vitality, our sun, to take us to the destination. Now, notice the sun is a vehicle, meaning it's not the destination. Ego is not the destination. Ego gets us to the destination. Our personality takes us to the destination. It itself is not the destination. A lot of people live in that place where either the comfort zone is the destination, their home, their moon, their unconscious tendencies, or they kind of leave that all or deny that, which is usually the case, and they just completely go into full personality, full ego, and they come off as this egotistical, kind of confident asshole. And that's not it either. You're still missing the picture, which is that there's somewhere to go. Now, in the macro sense, there's nowhere to go, nowhere to be, nothing to do, just being. But in the context of which I'm describing, there is a destination, and we need to consciously work towards that destination in order to really, you could say, evolve or get the most out of our life. Or we were talking about destiny and dharma before. That's what it is. It really represents that which we're coming here to learn in many regards. So that's what our rising sign represents. It on the base level, it represents how we look as well. So you can usually tell people, not usually by their sun sign, but usually you can tell people's rising sign a lot better just based off their physical appearance.
Oh, really?
As that rules their physical appearance. Yeah.
The sun sign.
Rising.
The rising.
Yeah, your ascendant. So usually I'm pretty good at guessing people's ascendants. That's kind of how I give the description of the big three. And that's what really matters when you're getting into astrology, because you don't want to get too complicated. It doesn't really, all that other stuff, it matters when you're getting a professional like me to run through your stuff and you're paying someone to, tell you about it. But when you're just discovering it for yourself, or you're just trying to figure out what this is all about, just knowing those big three really changes the game. Just knowing what those mean and how those impact you. Knowing that you have your sun in this placement and you have your moon in this placement and you have your rising in this sign, well, that really changes the whole outlook, because now you're not just the one sign anymore, which is what a lot of people think they are. I'm just an Aries, but I never resonate with Aries. I don't know why. Well, for me, that was a big one, because my moon is in Cancer and I have a Pisces rising. Both of them are water signs, right? As opposed to, I hear the impulsive, outrageous, aggressive Aries, and I never really resonated with that as a kid. Usually when we're kids, by the way, we tend to operate more or less from the moon sign until we reach the kind of self-aware stage around 11 or so, usually around 11 or 12, which is our first Jupiter return. And that's when we start to activate our sun sign. We start to have our own personality. We start to kind of separate from mom and dad and realize that we're not an extension of our mother anymore, and we kind of have our own thoughts, and we think we're right, and we think we know everything. That kind of goes on for some time until we get humbled. Again, these are all astrological cycles, and we all have those same cycles in our lives, which is cool, and which is what makes us human and also connected.
And this might be useful to point out, the big three are the big three because they are the ones that change the fastest, thereby the most personal.
Yes. So, like I said, the rising sign changes every 2 hours. The moon sign changes every
So
two
the sun's
and a half
moving
days,
through each sign.
once a month.
So
The
your
sun changes signs once a month.
Oh,
So the sun moves 1 degree a day, and there's 30 degrees per sign.
Right.
So approximately 1 month. The moon takes about 1 month, 28 days for a lunar cycle, full moon to full moon, 28 days. 2 weeks, new moon to full moon. Thus, it's about 2.5 days or so, just less than 2.5 days, that the moon changes signs. So the moon will be in one sign and go to the next every just less than 3 days.
3 days.
And then the rising or the ascendant, if you think about when the sun sets and rises every day, which is represented by the ascendant, well, the sun moves quite a bit in a day,
Right.
and thus the ascendant moves quite a bit in a day. It moves every 2 hours. Every 2 hours it will change signs.
Right. There's 12 signs, so 24 hours in a day.
Again, that's approximate just because of the way that the constellations are. For example, Pisces is a bigger constellation. Thus, Pisces, the ascendant being in Pisces is usually a longer time period. So it's not exactly 2 hours, as one would like to think. There's some leeway for each of those.